I'm going to peel this back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the dots. So yes, this is for sewing. Technically, this is all you'd ever have to work with. But since this is a fit sample and we want to make sure it's accurate, I'm actually going to draw in the dart legs. Normally, this is a big no-no. On final other things, I don't want to see any dart legs drawn in. But on a fit sample, please draw them in. That way we can tell if something's not fitting, we can tell whether it's a sewing error versus a pattern error. If you're sewing directly on the lines and it's not fitting, then we know it's a pattern error. But if your sewing is like all over the place and it's not fitting, I don't know. And I'm going to have you pull it out and fix that. So we're going to draw in the dart leg. And your pieces, I did the back pieces, are going to look something like that. Okay, so I had pre-drawn in my center lines and my cross grain lines. The new lines that I drew in were these dart legs. The other place where I think it's kind of helpful, for that same reason I just went over with the darts, and it doesn't take too long, is I would draw in your side seam lines. They're straight lines and easy to put in. And I would draw in your shoulder seam lines. This is only, it's not to be anything more than a helpful tool. Because let's say you did sew perfectly, but it's still not fitting and we need to change something at the shoulder. If you have a hard line drawn in there and we know, okay, we're going to take out 1/4 of an inch, and you mark it and you fix it. If you have a line and a red line marked on your muslin, on your fit sample, it's really easy to measure from a line to a line to fix something, rather than measuring from blank to a something. This makes it more concrete. So if you have straight edges, just go ahead and draw in those straight edge lines, seam lines, and it'll just help in the fitting process. Okay, it's very rare that your first pass at a fit sample will be perfect. So if you finish your fit sample and there's something wrong with it, it's not the end of the world. You know, that's the point of the fit sample, is to check your pattern before you cut into that $20 a yard silk, right? This was $2 a yard. So this is our test fit thing. Now how are we going to sew this? We're actually going to sew it so it's inside out. So the darts are all sticking out and the seam lines are all sticking out. That's going to help us when we're fitting it. We can put it on the form, and if the dart needs to be taken in a little bit more, we can pinch more and pin more. We don't want to have any of that hidden in on the inside. Okay? So the way we're going to sew it is we're going to fold to match our notches. Okay. And we're going to fold to our vanishing point. And we're going to sew our darts the way we normally would, except this time we have a nice sewing line to follow. Okay. So I like to start at my vanishing point when I sew darts. I feel like it can be more accurate. So I would, if I'm at the sewing machine, I drop my needle down right on that vanishing point, and I might put a pin there so I know exactly where that level is. I'll drop my needle down right there. I'll sew 2 or 3 stitches, back up 2 or 3 stitches, and then sew forward along that line. And I'll back stitch at the end as well. We're going to have these be nice and secure darts. Okay, so let's pretend that one's shut. I'll do the same thing to my shoulder dart. I'll do my same thing over here. I'll do my same thing to my bodice darts. If you're super speedy and want to keep going, you do it to your skirt darts as well. What I want you to do for homework is to get your bodice sewn. We need to work on our sleeve on Friday, and we need to make sure we've got a bodice to put the sleeve in to make sure it works. So, great. If you've got nothing to do tomorrow and you want to do the skirt too, wonderful. That would be wonderful to do. Bare minimum, get the bodice done, at least one side of the bodice, the side that's on the form, done so that we can get that armhole working and we can test fit your sleeve before you leave on Friday. Okay? The rest of the fit sample will be due on Monday. So plan on, you can either get all your sewing done tomorrow if you have nothing else to do and you want to have a weekend, or you can get the bodice done tomorrow and do the skirt portion on the weekend.
So we'll sew the skirt and the top of the bodice together?
Yeah, well, what we'll do, after the darts are done, you're going to sew your shoulder seam, same thing, so we have a line to follow. Okay, that will get, hold on guys, you might have the answer to it, or you might hear the answer to your own question. We'll be pressing open that shoulder seam. Okay, this neckline here is mostly on the bias, right? This tends to stretch, especially when we're doing fittings and there's a lot of tugging going on. So after this shoulder seam is done, we're going to run a line of stay stitching. So what's stay stitching?
Single needle.
Single needle stitching that's on the seam line, and that's going to keep it from stretching out while we work with it. It's also going to play double duty, because remember we drew in these lines here? If we stay stitch a 1/4 inch, that's going to draw in our neckline too, and when we go to check our fit, we can see whether the neckline needed to get fixed or not.
Do you want to stay stitch when we still at home or whatever?
Yes, please. Yeah, please stay stitch this neckline. This gets stretched out a lot. You can also stay stitch the armhole. That's not as necessary. We will be putting a sleeve in there and that'll stabilize it, but you need to stay stitch the neckline. So we'll be doing the shoulder. I like to stay stitch at this point while this is still open. It's easier to do. Then we'll close the side seam.
How about the dart? Would we have sewn this top dart already?
Yes, you'll need to sew the top. So you'll sew all darts.
Oh,
and then you'll
the
work with
shoulder.
your seams.
Okay.
Yeah. Make sure when after you sew your darts that you press them towards the center. If you have a ham at home, which I suggest you get one if you don't already, if you have a ham at home, press over ham. If not, if you don't have a ham at home, don't just press over the whole thing. Cup up your muslin and press the dart with your muslin cups. We want to keep that cup shape happening. Okay? So make sure you press your dart. I've written the instructions up here. This is the instructions for the whole thing. If you take just your bodice pieces and go from here to here, that would be where we'd like to be for Friday. If you just feel like doing it and having a slower, easier weekend, here's the rest. Okay, so we'll basically be sewing all the darts, then shoulders, then all the side seams, and then we'll be sewing the bodice to the skirt at the waistline. The very last thing we're going to be doing is sewing from the HBL down on the skirt. We're going to leave HBL up, open. That would be where a zipper is, so that we can actually put it on the form. Okay? No seam finishing, no serging, no mirroring, no zippers, no hems, nothing. Just simple, simple sewing. I also suggest that you work with a larger stitch length, like a 4 or a 5, in case you need to pull something out. Then it'll be easy. Okay? And it's not, oh, I have to pull something out, I did a bad job. It's, no, I need it, if something needs to get fixed, I want to make it better. And it's much easier if you've got, you don't have to go to the full biggest stitch, but like a 4 would be a nice stitch length to do.
Would that be true for the dart as well?
You can, like these standard darts, I mean, those aren't going to change. The changes would be happening at the side seam. So I generally sew my darts with a regular stitch length, but you could do a 4 there. I just wouldn't do the big floppy 5 that pulls apart.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
We'll loosen up and
Exactly.
We get